Hey, so today I want to talk about the creative journey, building something from scratch, something that's probably highly personal, probably something that you care deeply about, and something that is motivated by a problem that you have seen either in yourself or in your relationships or in the broader society, the world, something that you want to dedicate your limited time on earth towards working towards. You know, I mainly work with business owners, entrepreneurs. If you identify as a founder, any of those are interchangeable as far as this definition goes. But I've had some corporate employees that I've worked with, and that's been enjoyable. But this message is really enjoyable and impactful, to be clear. But this message, it's really towards the person who is building something. And, you know, any direction we want to take our business in, any method we want to use to build it, silly example perhaps, but investing, a lot of money in a highly unique product, where the product is going to appeal to people. The other path might be, investing money into marketing and branding and making something that's already out there a lot cooler, a lot better. Just, building our businesses, inviting local business owners into my home for a Friday brunch club and having that turn into clients. That is a path that works. If I were to stand out on the corner with a sign and wave it and talk about my coaching practice, I'd probably get a client or two eventually. So the thing that I see happen, and you've probably heard this message from a lot of other people, we give up before we get to where we're going. And, I've asked this question to hundreds of people. When have you ever heard a story about somebody who has put in effort consistently, whether that be daily, weekly, monthly, well, hopefully a little more than monthly, but daily, maybe not every day, but working towards something, whether that be learning something they don't know, improving health, or starting and growing a business, or following the creative path. When have you ever heard of somebody who has consistently done that forever and listened to feedback, analysis, look at data, what's happening, what's not? And when have you ever heard of somebody who is adjusting based off that data and it not working? I have never ever seen somebody fail. And failure looks a lot different to a lot of people, but I've never seen somebody fail miserably when they've been flexible, when they have listened to feedback, when they've been able to, when they've been able to surrender a bit and observe this journey as, the wins, the losses, they're all lessons, and that's the secret of this. I've been thinking, let's start here. So this is probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me. One of the top publications, newspapers in the entire world, certainly, in the United States, has accepted a personal essay about me and the journey. So I wrote this, and it's about, really over the past 10 years from when my life was whispering at me to listening to it, not doing it perfectly by any means, heading down a lot of wrong paths and, eventually leading to where I am today, where I can't believe it. Just even the fact that somebody, I didn't do well in English class in high school and college, that wasn't my strength. And to see that I've gotten this essay, that I have figured this out, it's just absolutely remarkable. I've been thinking about this for a while. So I started my writing career, and I'm going to kind of use this to demonstrate this story, because it is, I've never ever experienced rejection and failure and everything that has come along with writing. I've never experienced anything as character building as writing. I mean, I was not good at it at the beginning. Like I hired a writing coach 5 years ago, and like we met weekly all through COVID. We met weekly for about 2.5 years, and I invested a lot of money. I mean, even more time. I'm talking 20 hours a week. I invested in this for probably probably an average of 20 hours a week. I invested in this for about 3 years. And I have submitted tons of work to be published. This is only my second piece that's been published. There was another one in December in Queer Love Project, which is a Substack. But and it was really beautiful to be able to share my story about about partly about my journey, learning to love myself, living my life for me, and navigating through that as a gay man, and how that has been, challenging as it is for anybody out there who's, experienced adversity or doing something that's not seen as accepted by society. But, like there was times when I'd meet with my writing coach, and like she would be like, Matt, like, I mean, she was always nice to me and everything, but it was like, Matt, like this is not at all like writing to like it's not at all a story. It's just you getting thoughts out onto the page and stuff. And I mean, I did my best. Like that was, I mean, I know like she wasn't wrong, and I didn't get defensive about it. It was more like what happened would be that I would, self-flagellate. Like I would be getting really upset with myself for not doing better. And, this journey of learning that, like, the journey of writing my book, sharing my story, learning how to tell it as a story and not just as a journal entry that clearly nobody would want to read. I worked really hard at it. And I mean, looking back at it, I did my best, But more, I mean, it's a character building exercise doing anything creative. We experience rejection, we experience, failures and losses. But more than that, this is like the point. All of these external things that are happening are just like, they're just like dots on a map, I was listening to my Kabbalah podcast this morning. I, started studying Kabbalah a couple of years ago. Honestly, it like changed me profoundly. Like the big thing that I've taken from it, and I think from what I understand so far, very much a student right now, still far from an expert. It's that obstacles are opportunities. So like when things happen, we're always like, there's always a lesson in it. There's always something. It's all supposed to happen on our journey. And I'm, speaking about this more on the creative path than like the philosophical path of, real loss and such. So just to be clear about that. But, like I think back to when I worked in New York, like I had companies I worked for where the owners would like put their entire house on the line for like a risk in the business that, realistically probably had a 5%, if not 25% chance of failing. And as I work with clients now, a lot of the work that I'm doing right now is in a specific mentorship program around business development. And that's in addition to the one-on-one work I do. Really, I mean, I work in really under one big umbrella, and that's helping people build a life that's for them. There's, this arm of my business that's around business development. And, I very much sold it and talked about it as like, this is not the 10-step plan. Like I'm coming into the business being a, like a fractional chief revenue officer for, an independent contractor or a coach or a real estate agents, service providers, etc. Doctors, have worked with me in similar capacities. But like any of these paths work for you. For me, I've chosen writing to be the way, writing and more long form and just more storytelling and, but I didn't even know I was consciously choosing that. Like this has been a journey of learning to get to know myself and learning to get to see what I'm good at, like what's painful and what is just uncomfortable. And, you know, like, in this mentorship right now, there's a couple of people that are, having amazing results, and there's a couple of people that wish they were having more results. And part of it, like, we look at the data, and my role is I have to, tell people sometimes things they don't want to hear. And, I've never made anybody cry, to be clear. I'm very compassionate and everything, but or helping them see the data, you want this, but in order to have that, you've only done this much effort into something. And that's not with admonishment, that's part of the journey. Like for me, I'm probably a little more on the other side of the fence where I've needed to learn that less is more. So in the work that I do, I'm not trying to sell my products or services to thousands or even hundreds of people. I've needed to learn that, to work really intentionally, we don't see the output that we expect. I've studied many writers. When I say study, listen to many writers talk. Many of them I've heard say they work 45 minutes a day on a book. That's all they can do. Or they might work 3 hours a day or something, but it's still not an 8-hour a day role for a lot of people, because you need to allow yourself time to process and to just to allow things to sink in and lessons to be learned. So back to my writing my book project. So I said, for about 3 years, I worked with a writing coach, maybe 2.5 years, I said, but somewhere around there. And there was a year of kind of putting this project down a bit, not completely, but I started reading a lot, seeing really how, now that I was 3 years smarter in terms of writing, let me kind of take what I learned now and see how other writers are doing it. And really, probably the biggest thing that I learned is that there's no definition of really a good writer or a good book. Clearly there are some people who are, definitely, amazing. I'm not taking anything away from them, but with me, somebody who's newer on this, there's, writers who get their, knowledge out, their thoughts out, and do it in memoir, do it, in a story that's, or let me be more clear, it could be in a memoir, it could be in a story that's told chronologically, it could be one that's told in essay form, and that's what I realized. Some of the books I enjoyed were things that I would never write, in just mainly in format. But there's an audience. There generally is a buyer for everything. There's and how I've gotten to where I've gotten to, in a relatively short time, only my second year of coaching. The first year full time, I made 6 digits. The second year, I'm looking to probably get to 7 digits if I want to. Right now, we're having a baby in a few days, so we're going to see how this unfolds. But I'm allowing flexibility. And at the end of the day, the client that I, really love working with is the one who also is, taking risks and learning the non-linearity of life, and that there are going to be some times that are good and some times that aren't good. And it's really, it's helping people, it's helping the, generally business owner or entrepreneur, it's helping them embrace this journey a lot better. And that could be building the business, restructuring the business, stepping away from the business a bit, getting people to do what they should be doing, because you as the business owner need not to be uninspired and, bogged down and your creativity stifled. So, all of that, it's learning to be flexible. It's learning to really be honest about what we need and what we don't need. And that works in terms of what we're asking people for, and in terms of money, you don't need to make $1 million every single month. I'm sorry. That'd be great, but like, you don't need to make $1 million every year. If one, like, what does it really matter? I'm just using these examples. If, year 1 is $1 million and year 2 is 800,000, year 3 is 1.1, year 4 is 750, and year 5 is $150,000. I'm sorry. $1.5 million. It's like, we're so attached on that journey to like what success looks like today. And that is keeping us in a lot of ways from actually just enjoying the journey. And it's important to I said this to myself many years ago, and it just I like the way it came out, and it works for me. But this is our life, and it's happening now. Your car gets broken into or something. The job is really for you to get a little bit better about not reacting to that in a way that a younger version of yourself would have. And not to say we're not allowed to get angry or to be sad or any of those emotions, but we become better at communicating those, at identifying those inside of us. And rather than throwing a temper tantrum, we admit, like, wow, I'm really angry, someone broke in my car. But for us to get mad about losing $500 in a way that is compromising our quality of life, that's like us saying that like we believe that we're never going to have $500 come easy again. So all of this just to say right now, it's like this creative path is it's a challenge, and it's one that we eventually become, better and better at embracing the ups and downs, and looking at, all of these things that happen they're just part of it. There's going to be times when we make a lot of money and times when we make a little bit less. And, so many of us catastrophize, like, I'm never going to make this money again, or we have to sell our house or anything. No, you probably just might not get as nice of a vacation in a bad year as you might get in a good year. So, and this is all to say, this strategy would be different if there's imminent danger. If you are at a place where you're absolutely running out of money, then yeah, there is, not the luxury of just trusting and hoping and everything. Well, we're not hoping, that's not a business strategy, but trusting it'll work out. That's relative to the runway. We do have to be practical. All of this to say though, I had a client last week that brought up, if I believe it, like a client, he was waiting for a yes from a proposal, and he said, I'm confused because I've read about, people who are manifesting that, something will come through by living as if they already have the $1 million, or living if they already have the $2 million or whatever. But if you send a proposal out and it feels okay for you to throw yourself a party and buy a new car, as assuming that it'll go forward, that feels good. And if something doesn't go forward, which it won't always, there's going to be some times, if you're not going to slip into a place of depression or anything, then yeah, if that works for you, go for it. For me, that would not work. I would probably not recommend somebody live their life as if, one opportunity came forward. But with this writing, I sent off the proposal. I believed that more and more of my work will get accepted the better I get at talking about it, talking about what I'm doing, embracing who I have to become to be the person who I want to be, how I'm saying and how I'm saying it. And, this piece that's hitting on Friday the 3rd, it's very vulnerable, and there's going to be stuff that makes people probably a little bit uncomfortable. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are really proud of me and inspired by me. But, Matt 2 years ago probably wouldn't have been in a place where he could have, been, I think I'm in a place where I'm a lot less reactive about that than I was 2 years ago or even a year ago. I've had to become the person that I used to worry about money all the time, and it's probably only been the past 9 or so months that I've actually like really slowed. Like I'm okay. Like I've gotten, I'm sure there'll be discomfort, that arises again and more growing and learning to do, but at the same time, like I mean, I've become the person that I can enjoy the ride more than I used to, and I'm sure there's still work to be done on that, but all this to say, the essay that's hitting on Friday, you can comment writing below, and I will make sure I send it to you the minute it hits the newsstand. This is a big deal, and I don't know what's going to happen from this. I even considered, should I be putting this out there? What happens if the newspaper burns down and they don't do this, or they decide not to? I'm cool with that. I mean, if something changes, it changes. I don't think it will though, but I don't know if people are going to reach out. I don't know if there'll be a lot of praise, a lot of negative comments. I don't know if anything. I mean, what if nothing happens? But I will adjust from that. I will redirect my business efforts. I will redirect my creativity if that's what it comes to. So I mean, we'll see. But I'm along for the ride. Thank you for the support, for those of you who have been along this journey with me for so long. And if there's, any questions about the work that I do, this is, if you don't have someone in your life who's challenging you, who is guiding you, who is helping you stay motivated when you're being hard on yourself, if you are putting a ton of effort out there and nothing's happening and you're struggling to see the growth opportunities and the lessons that could be derived from what you're doing, that's the work that I do. I have never worked with a client that hasn't completely changed from having somebody in their court, but really telling them the hard things that, let's face it, if you're not paying somebody to do that, why were they going to want to get in your face and risk having a fight? Anyways, and no one's ever cried by working with me. I'm a very nice, compassionate guy. But wishing you all the best. Thank you, and really excited. And we don't know when it will happen, but it always does if we stay committed.